The ninth cave of the Yungang Grottoes was carved during the prosperous Taihe period of the Northern Wei, under the joint rule of Emperor Xiaowen and Empress Dowager Feng. On the waist wall of the cave's ante-chamber depicts the story of Shan Zi's filial piety. The filial and benevolent Shan Zi cared for his elderly, blind parents alone. But one day, while drawing water by the river, he was accidentally killed by the hunting king. Upon learning of Shan Zi's death, his parents wept bitterly.
You can see. They are crying their hearts out from here. Then the story continues below. In the next image, it tells of Shan Zi's death. He had already passed away. Thus, the king led Shan Zi's parents to see his body. That was the image there. The rest all weathered away.
The Buddha heard of this and, moved by Shan Zi's filial devotion, sent a god with a miraculous medicine for his rebirth. The king, too, was moved. Filial piety became a rule to be followed in the kingdom. Filial piety, the highest virtue, in Han culture, was etched by the once nomadic Xianbei people into their royal grottos. Under the banner of their flourishing culture, hidden beneath was the political message of the time. Inside the house, the person playing the drum is Xiaowen, a retired soldier, who used to play the trombone in the military band, based not far from Datong. By chance, he came into contact with the Yungang gong and drum.
The drum is incredibly impactful. The mu guang breaks the heavenly gate formation, makes quite the entrance. I felt as though it was shaking my soul.
After retiring, instead of returning to his hometown of Huaihua, Hunan, who stayed in Datong, learning Yungang gong and drum with local artists. The origin of Yungang gong and drum traces way back. According to his teacher, it existed as early as the Northern Wei period. The ruling Xianbei people in the Northern Wei loved music and dance, especially the strong-willed Empress Feng. In 481 AD, Empress Dowager Feng, the legendary woman who had controlled the Northern Wei for 16 years, was already 39 years old. One day, she received eagerly awaited good news from the front line. The Northern Wei army had defeated the Southern Qi in present-day Huaiyang, Hunan, capturing nearly 30,000 Southern Qi soldiers. After this, the Southern Qi army retreated steadily. After this battle, the situation stabilized along the Huaihe River. Large-scale northern and southern expeditions ceased, and both sides sent envoys for peace talks. The southern and northern dynasties entered a period of peaceful development lasting for over a decade. During this time, the image of two Buddhas seated together became more common in the Yungang Grottoes. The two Buddhas seated together had very similar faces and expressions, almost indistinguishable. The political meaning of the two Buddhas seated together is quite obvious. They symbolize the young Emperor Xiaowen, Talba Hong, and Empress Dowager Feng, who controlled the emperor. Wang Hen is a researcher at Yungang Research Institute. He carefully counted the number of two Buddha-seated statues in the Yungang caves along Wuzhou Mountain, finding a total of 385 such statues, the most common type of statue in the Yungang Grottoes. Historical records say, Empress Dowager Feng often had officials tell Emperor Xiaowen the iron-blooded conquest histories of the Xianbei Talba clan's past emperors, making it clear to him that these great emperors all had tragic endings. Most of them died young or met untimely deaths. And their nations and regimes became unstable. She specifically wrote the Admonition Song and Imperial Edict, reminding Talba Hong of the many rules for a son of heaven. She hoped that Emperor Xiaowen would implement civil governance and further align with Han culture. Thus, Empress Dowager Feng shaped and controlled Emperor Xiaowen. The filial story of Shan Zi in the Ninth Cave can easily be interpreted beyond its Buddhist meaning. It reflects the son's respect and obedience to his mother. Talba Gui, the founding emperor of the Northern Wei, wanted to establish a primogeniture system like the Han. To prevent interference from the imperial harem, he set up the cruel rule of killing the mother of the crown prince. Talba Gui had the mother of his crown prince, Liao, executed. Later, after Talbas ascended to power, he also had the mother of his crown prince, Du, executed. When Talba Tao ascended to the throne, the mother of his crown prince, He, was likewise executed. However, the Northern Wei emperors never anticipated that after Emperor Wenqing Talba Jun passed away, Empress Feng would emerge as a political powerhouse. Her presence made the public rule by the Empress Dowager a reality. And this political reality was symbolically etched into the Yungang Grottoes.
In terms of practical meaning, after Emperor Wenqing passed away, Emperor Xianwen succeeded to the throne. But he was very young. So Empress Dowager Feng ruled on his behalf. When Emperor Xianwen abdicated, Emperor Xiaowen succeeded, and again, he was very young. So Empress Dowager Feng continued to rule. Thus, in Northern Wei politics, two ruling powers emerged: the Empress Dowager and the Emperor. This situation formed a dual leadership of co-rule.
In 483 AD, Emperor Xiaowen, Talba Hong, was 16 years old. That year, Empress Dowager Feng, who could be strictly addressed as the Grand Empress Dowager, used Talba Gui's cruel rule as an excuse to force Talba Hong to kill his concubine who had just given birth to the crown prince. Then, she took the crown prince to raise him at her side, again. By keeping the young emperor firmly under her control, Empress Dowager Feng was not an ordinary woman. With her usual fierce methods, she promoted social reforms in the Northern Wei. These reforms took place during the Taihe period of Emperor Xiaowen, also known as the Taihe Reforms. In the winter of 483 AD, Empress Dowager Feng first tested the waters by issuing an edict to prohibit intermarriage among the same clan. At the time, the Xianbei people still held on to the ancient custom of group marriages, including close kin marriages, marriages with huge age gap, and early marriages, especially marriages among siblings, cousins of the same household or family. She then issued a decree concerning official salaries, providing salaries to officials who had previously relied on military achievements or looting to sustain themselves. She also stipulated that if any official embezzled even a single piece of cloth or a sheep, they would be severely punished. After the reign of Emperor Taiwu Talba Tao, the frequency of warfare decreased, and rewards were fewer, even insufficient to support the officials' livelihoods. Some officials began to seek wealth through their own means, indulging violence and corruption, and leading to the darkest period in Chinese history for officialdom. Records show that officials, when first assigned to their posts, arrived on horseback with only a single whip, but left with 10 carriages. Royal family members and nobles, especially, enjoyed many privileges. After a rigorous overhaul, the Northern Wei government underwent significant improvements. and the orderly political atmosphere was reflected here. This is called the mid-phase of the Yungang Grottoes, with a distinct artistic style emerging. There are 11 caves of Yungang Grottoes carved during the joint rule of Empress Dowager Feng and Tolbahong. Compared to the early caves, there were significant changes in both form and technique. By the middle period, the large statues of earlier caves became less common, and the previous simple and rough style was replaced by intricate detail. The 7th and 8th caves of Yungang are a pair of twin caves with symmetrical structural features, still reflecting the political arrangement of the Northern Wei's two rulers. Although they are heavily weathered, the beauty and magnificence that were once there of these caves can still be found. Whether it's the statues of celestial beings carved on the arches of their rear chambers that were named 6 Eastern Beauties, or the sculptures of Hinduism deities like Mahes with 3 heads and 6 arms, Kumara with 5 heads and 6 arms, and the attendant bodhisattvas carved on window. They are exquisite examples of ancient Chinese sculpture. With the political sinicization of the Xianbei people, the artistic sinicization of the Yungang Grottoes also became more evident. This carving, of a flying celestial figure holding a lotus on the arch, is a feature of Han wooden architecture, which often used this type of roof structure. Now, it appears in the Yungang Grottoes, replacing the earlier dome-shaped roofs, inspired by the felt tents of the Xianbei people. The aesthetic within the caves subtly echoes the times outside. The 7th and 8th caves of Yungang are twin caves with the west side empty. 5 caves were excavated in total, from the 9th to the 13th caves. Because of the decoration and paintings added during the Liao, Jin, and Qing dynasties, they form an elegant and splendid whole. People call these 5 caves the Wuhua Caves. The wooden pagoda outside, modeled after the architecture of the Northern Wei, was built by Datong municipal government in 2015 to protect the sculptures inside. The front facade originally used the colonnades of ancient Greek temples, with a 2-column filial form that facilitated lighting and reduced moisture from water infiltration. It also made transporting and clearing the stones easier during excavation. The Greek architectural influence is evident in several places, such as the arch and the side columns of the niches at the 9th cave, with the Ionic style, commonly used on pillars in Greek temples. This reflects the historical mutual influence and exchange between Buddhist and ancient Greek art. The east and west walls of the 9th cave's antechamber have 2 niches and 1 hall. 2 niches on the first level, and 1 hall on the upper level. This arrangement creates a stable and harmonious composition. Passing through an archway decorated with mani beads, you enter the rear chamber, where a reclining Buddha is displayed. Because the rear chamber has weathered significantly, the essence of the 9th cave is focused in the antechamber. The arch is crafted, modeled after ancient Chinese palace architecture, with great delicacy. The beams of the palace romantically depict various dancing figures, representing people transforming from the mortal world to the paradise. Beneath these lifelike figures are intricate floral patterns, with prominent lotus flower decorative cylinders. On either side of the arch and windows, the upper part still depicts the 2 seated Buddhas, while the lower part features the cross-ankled Maitreya Buddha. The 10th cave, symmetric to the 9th, features a similar layout, with 2 seated Buddhas. However, under the same overall principle as the 9th cave, there are subtle variations. For example, the arch and beams between the windows, on the north wall of the 10th cave, were not carved in a palace style like Cave 9, but took the Buddhist sacred mountain, Mount Sumeru, as its theme. In a small space, less than 3 meters long and not even 2 meters high, the design features undulating mountains, ancient trees, and animals. The floral beams of Cave 10 are as exquisite as those of Cave 9. In the intricate floral patterns, 6 lotus decorative cylinders are carved, with layers of flower borders. The layout of the Buddha niches in Cave 9 and Cave 10 reflects the political landscape of the Northern Wei Taihe era. Outside the caves, in the secular world, Empress Dowager Feng and Emperor Xiaowen were deepening their reforms. One of the most far-reaching reforms in Chinese history to come was the equal field system. In northern China during the Northern Wei period, there were few real villages. What stood in the fields were castles and earthen enclosures. Behind the solid fortresses lived dozens or even hundreds of families. The leader of the fortress was called the Zongzhu. He had his own armed forces and controlled vast lands. Each of these warlords, with military and economic power, controlled a region. In 485 AD, the foundation of the local powerhouse's rule was broken. A decree from Empress Dowager Feng and Emperor Xiaowen was sent to all regions of the Northern Wei. The decree solemnly stated the inequality between rich and poor, and declared the emperor's wish for peace across the land and prosperity for the people. Thus, the land of the entire empire was to be evenly distributed to the people. This was the famous equal field system. A series of reforms during the Taihe era gradually stabilized the northern regions that had endured long periods of chaos and destruction. The prosperity of the economy gathered into the brilliant splendor of culture. The Xianbei people's confidence in tolerance transformed into an artistic originality that was unconventional and unique. The central pillar of Cave 11 in the Yungang Grottoes was proved to be supplemented during the Liao dynasty. This is a statue of 1 Buddha and 2 bodhisattvas. On the left and right are 2 attendant bodhisattvas, with slender figures and graceful, elegant attire. The texture of their robes is clear, and they are lifelike. Their faces exhibit calm, simple expressions that convey confidence and nobility. On the west wall, under a near 8-meter-high house-shaped niche, are carvings of Shakyamuni Buddha and 6 past Buddhas, symbolizing Buddhism's long history. The Wei stele script is a unique style of calligraphy, a transitional form between Han and Jin clerical script and Town regular script. When it comes to Wei stele script, people naturally think of the inscriptions in the Longmen grottos. However, the true origin of Wei stele script was in Pingcheng. During the reign of Emperor Taiwu of the Northern Wei, Sui Hao was ordered to compile the national history, producing a 30-volume book. He had the history inscribed on stone tablets and placed them along the main roads. The script used at that time was likely the earliest form of Wei stele script. Sui Hao didn't realize that although his history was likely accurate, it was filled with outdated customs and violent content about the Talba ancestors, which angered the Xianbei nobles, leading to his execution. Although Sui Hao was killed, the Wei stele script had already spread in northern China. At the Yungang Grottoes, 31 inscriptions from the Northern Wei remain. The most ancient and text-rich inscription in the grottos is located on the upper south end of the east wall of Cave 11, dating back to the 7th year of Taihe. The script is simple, ancient, and exhibits subtle sophistication. The strokes are varied, blending the rough and vigorous characteristics of the northern minorities with the elegant and refined spirit of Confucian culture. It is a masterpiece of Wei style calligraphy. A people without written language did not adhere to traditional seal or clerical scripts when learning and adopting Chinese characters. Instead, they confidently developed a new script style. If Cave 11 left behind the early marks of Wei style script, then Cave 12, right next to it, shows the musical style of that era. Some call Cave 12 the music cave. Joyful dances are in the air and long songs echo in the heart. This is a vivid picture of musical instruments, dance, and the spirit from over 1,500 years ago. On the top of the north wall of the ante-chamber, there is a row of 14 celestial musicians holding various instruments. They are in a Buddha niche in the heavenly palace, immersed in the melody of the music. Their instruments include wind instruments like the bili, changdi, and paishao, percussion instruments such as the xiaogu and qigu, and plucked instruments like the pipa, taongjin, wuxian. Some from the Central Plains, while others were from Western Liang, Ku Cha, and India. The musicians, with their diverse expressions and the variety of instruments, sometimes formed complex ensembles in certain scenes.
This is a rather special ensemble. What makes it special? In this band, we see 3 xiaogu drums of different sizes: large, small, and medium. Considering that 3 drums of different sizes are used in one ensemble, this arrangement likely has a specific reason regarding the timbre. Perhaps already thinking about the harmonic distribution between the main drum and others.
This large ensemble is not only complex in orchestration, but also has a dedicated conductor.
What's most interesting is this figure, the one we usually call the conductor. He is the only one in the band not holding an instrument. Instead, his body is in a dance-like state. The whole body is in a state of dance. Hands pressed together, index fingers clashing. He is making a flicking motion, a typical feature of the Kuchian dance, which involves finger snapping. In ancient China, finger snapping was used as a rhythm marker, producing sounds to guide a large orchestra.
The musical images in Cave 12 represent an era long past, but they have left a profound legacy. Almost every day, Hu Yuanxuan visits the studio to practice drumming. He has lived in Datong for over 20 years. He got married here and established a gong and drum art society with the aim of preserving the art of Yungang gong and drum.
The repertoire has over 1,000 pieces, including 144 large suites, each lasting more than 40 minutes, and hundreds of smaller tunes. It is multi-layered and complex, resembling a symphony. The former president of Chinese Musicians Association, Mr. Liu Ji, once praised it, calling it symphony of gong and drum. I think this description is entirely fitting.
Yungang gong and drum alternates between slow and fast, with overlapping rhythms. In these beats, the distant history of the Northern Wei, its turbulence and passion, seems to echo. Sometimes, Hu Yuanshuan goes to Yungan, to Cave 12, to watch Yungan gong and drum and its once glorious era.
My teacher told me that this drum likely originated in the Northern Wei period, a history of over 1,400 years. In the music cave, Cave 12 of the Yungang Grottoes, we see many percussion instruments that closely resemble my teacher's drum. Look at this drum in my hand, strikingly similar. Feels as if they share the same origins.
Every time Hu Yuanshuan stands in the music cave, a deep sense of responsibility is awakened within him. He feels that no matter what, it is his duty to preserve the ancient Yungan gong and drum.
First, I just liked it. In the end, I felt it was my responsibility and duty. I must do this because it's a cultural treasure spanning thousands of years in China. If it doesn't get passed down, I would feel deeply guilty. That's what I think. I constantly strive to ensure the drum is passed on.
The sound of the drum lingers. Cave 12, besides its exquisite music, also features ethereal dances. The flying apsaras on its ceiling dance with the music, serving as messengers of Buddha. And the spirits and rainbows that appear when the Buddha speaks of ultimate truths. Inside the cave, countless unique dance sculptures capture eternal poses. Cave 12 is a blossoming flower of music and dance on stone. Here at the Datong Song and Dance Theater, performers rehearse diligently. Their upcoming performance is titled Yungan, the Grand Festival of the Buddha Land. Many of their dance moves are inspired by Yungang Grottoes.
Our current production is Yungan, the Grand Festival of the Buddha Land. The celestial musician roles are based on elements verified here.
The role I play in this show is a celestial musician, one of the musicians. In this celebration, that's the role I'm portraying. I see it over there, a celestial being playing the pipa. Today, for the first time, I had such a close look at the prototype of the role I play. I feel quite amazed. I've never seen it up close before. Its colors, movements, and expressions gave me so much inspiration. I feel I must perform even better.
Figures etched in stone, over 1,500 years ago, are a shock of inspiration to performers. In the grottos, many strange dance poses never seen before can be found. The origin of these poses remains unclear to the performers. But the diverse dance movements have utterly captivated them. In the Northern Wei dynasty, young girls danced much like dances of today. Most of the intense rhythms in these dances came from Ku Cha and Liangzhou. These dances arrived in Pingcheng with Buddhism.
You performed very well earlier. Now, let's finish this section on taming horses.
Yungang, the grand festival of the Buddha land, tells the story of the Xinbei people, establishing the Northern Wei dynasty, and later carving the Yungang Grottoes. One scene named Taming Horses is designed purely to showcase dance. It represents the boundless spirit and prowess of the Tolba Xinbei people. Empress Dowager Feng, as documented in history, understood deeply the art of taming horses, the people, and the emperor himself. 486 AD, in the first month of the lunar year, the 44-year-old Empress Dowager Feng finally allowed the 19-year-old Emperor Xiaowen to formally govern the court. With the Empress Dowager's support, Emperor Xiaowen continued the Sinicization policies, declaring war on old Xinbei customs. This time, the reform targeted officials' attire. According to the decree of the Two Saints, Northern Wei officials' new uniforms would emulate the Han dynasty's ceremonial attire called baoi bodai, meaning loose gown with wide girdle, originally worn by esteemed teachers in Han and Wei periods. Though impractical for daily life, it was dignified, elegant, and majestic. Both Empress Dowager Feng and Emperor Xiaowen held deep affection for this style.
In the 10th year of Taihe, a reform on clothing, or uniforms, occurred. This has greatly affected the grottos. The emperor wore the southern dynasty's attire, presiding over court assemblies. Foreign envoys came to the Taiji Hall, paying respects to the emperor in his southern dynasty's attire. After the Taihe clothing reform, its influence rapidly reached the Yungang Grottoes.
The royal preference had a ripple effect, influencing Buddhist communities. For example, the main statue in Cave 16 of Tanyao's 5 caves was already clad in Chinese-style attire. As Yungang Grottoes' mid-period progressed, this style became common.
Yungang Grottoes underwent Sinicization. Buddhist statues donned capacious Chinese robes. Traditional Indian clothing is bare-shouldered for cooling. Considering the local weather, it's natural to wear less clothes there. Not in China. Things have to change here. The Indian style of bare-shouldered robes was altered to cover the shoulder. Another version, Piantian, later emerged. This style features European clothing that covers both shoulders and is made from light, soft fabrics that emphasize the curves. European people value the beauty of bodies. They value the curves, and it needs to be shown on statues. That's not the case in China. China embraced loose gown with wide girdle.
Huang Yong, a fashion designer, has seen a rise in Chinese attire orders. As people are embracing traditional culture, demands of his clients are varied.
They want a blend of traditional Chinese elements, Buddhist, and international styles.
Seeking inspiration, Huang visited Yungang Grottoes.
Look, there's a phoenix tail on the edge. I think it looks nice.
In Yungang, one can see Indian, Greek, Xinbei, and Han attire styles. This rich mix of fashions inspired Huang.
Seeing the gilded Buddha, I felt inspired. The lotus motif below its chest. An element of lotus that's unseen in many Buddha statues and will influence my menswear designs. I believe that my new design will be a supplement to my former designs. If not a breakthrough, that's a great achievement from this trip.
The Yungang Grottoes charm continues to influence us deeply. Starting with Baoyi Bodai, Taihe Yungan statues features increasingly reflected Han Chinese aesthetics. This style, summarized by people who came after, emphasized slender, refined appearances, differing from rounder foreign faces. In the Wei, Jin, Southern and Northern dynasties, Han literati idealized an ethereal, unearthly beauty. Clear bone outline image refers to a thin figure. Wei, Jin, and Northern and Southern dynasties, figure painters like Liu Townwei and Gu Kaiji created works that exemplified this style. Under the influence of Central Plains culture, the Buddha statues from the mid to late Yungang Grottoes began to pursue a more refined elegance.
Later on, even the facial expressions began to change. The early imported styles in Yungan featured all images with joy, round faces, and amiable smiles. But statues built later grew more solemn. Faces thinned, necks elongated, and expressions turned aloof. I think this reflects some traditional Chinese ideas, especially elements possibly absorbed from Taoist beliefs, which infused Buddhist statues.
Cave 13, the last numbered of the Wuhua caves, is the westernmost in the central district. The statues in Cave 13 are relatively large. The height reaches 13.5 meters, ranking as the 7th tallest among the giant Buddha statues in Yungan. This massive Buddha statue is mostly coated with clay and painted. Though heavily weathered, the jewelry carvings on its body, such as the intricate ornaments, still remind us of its original brilliance and luxurious splendor. The artisans who sculpted this Buddha also designed a mighty figure to firmly support the Buddha's massive arms. On the south wall of Cave 13, there is a middle-tier row of 7 standing statues, each 2 meters tall, known as the 7 Standing Buddhas. During cataloging work, Yuan Xiaozhong from the Yungang Grottoes Research Institute noticed something peculiar here.
When comparing the easternmost 2 Buddhas to the others, I noticed their facial features differed from the other 5. This Buddha's facial characteristics, as we can see, are realistic, closer to human features. The forehead and nose are not as straight and broad as the Gandhara-style features of the first 5 standing Buddhas. This intrigued me, so I observed further. Gradually, I discovered that these 2 Buddha heads were added later from the chin area of the statue. There are clear bonding marks. Looking behind the heads, you can see they detach from the wall, looking different from the statue bodies. This heightened my curiosity. When were these heads added? Why replace these Buddha heads? What is the identity of these heads?
Yuan continued to observe and found that the craftsmanship of these replacement Buddha heads was flawless. However, their style differed from the other 5 Buddha heads. The other heads exhibit typical Northern Wei style, with Gandhara artistic features, while these 2 heads are more realistic, Realism in Buddha statues became popular after the Tang dynasty, following the full Sinicization of Buddhism. Yuan Xiaozhong examined records of post-Northern Wei renovations at Yungan and concluded that the replacement of these two Buddha heads most likely occurred during the reign of Emperor Daozong of Liao.
Additionally, within this cave, on the western side of the south wall, an inscription from the Liao dynasty was discovered. The inscription of the Liao people explicitly records that Khitan and Han officials and their families, men and women, collaborated to fix 1,870 statues.
Not far from Yungan lies Huayan Temple, also built during Emperor Daozong's reign. By then, Buddha statues had been fully Sinicized. Yuan thinks that the repaired Buddha heads in Cave 13 and the statues in Huayan Temple share striking artistic similarities. Moreover, one Buddha head appears to be a male, while the other is female.
The male has a wide face, a large mouth, and long ears. The female has a small nose and mouth. They clearly exhibit male and female traits.
Since the Northern Wei, Buddha statues had already incorporated the human Buddha unity tradition, often symbolizing emperors. During Emperor Daozong's reign, artisans likely intended the male head to symbolize Emperor Daozong, while the female head might represent his empress, Xiaowen. Xiaowen married Emperor Daozong at 4. Grew up to excel in music and dance, and was greatly loved. But she was later framed, and Emperor Daozong had her executed. Years later, the truth surfaced, and the emperor deeply regretted it. Whether by imperial decree or artisan initiative, a feminine face may have been carved, symbolizing Xiaowen, placed beside the statue of Emperor Daozong. Since emperors began being portrayed as Buddha statues, Yungan has been rich in intriguing court tales. It seems every standing Buddha has untold secrets behind it. In 489 AD, during the 4th lunar month, Talbahong and Empress Dowager Feng visited Feng's Han Mountain on the latter's birthday. The grandmother and grandson walked hand in harmonious unity. Empress Dowager Feng was 47 years old that year. Meanwhile, at Yungan, 2 conjoined caves were being carved. Caves 5 and 6. Entering the front gate of Yungang Grottoes today, climbing stone steps, you'll encounter 2 4-story wooden pavilions, built against the mountain. These are Cave 5 and 6 of Yungang Grottoes. The wooden structures were built in the 8th year of the Xuanji era by Tong Yangliang, the Governor-General of Xuanfu and Datong. With red pillars and yellow-blue roofs, they add magnificence and colors to the Yungang Grottoes. Inside Cave 5, an awe-inspiringly massive space and a Buddha statue stand before you. The scene makes humans feel so small. The stark contrast creates an overwhelming sense of the Buddha's majesty. Cave 5's design continues, the spatial model of earlier Yungan works. It features an elliptical layout with a domed ceiling, a 17-meter-tall main Buddha statue, and a front area large enough to accommodate 100 people. It's a seated Shakyamuni. The knees of the statue span 15 meters, and the right-hand middle finger alone measures 2.3 meters. This is the tallest Buddha statue in Yungan, and among the tallest in China. The 17-meter-tall seated Shakyamuni Buddha, painted and adorned with clay during the Liao era, shines with brilliance. A masterpiece of colored Buddha figure, the finest among all subsequent Yungan Buddha statues. Behind the giant Buddha stands a flame-shaped halo, reaching the top of the cave, adding to its dignity, holiness, and grandeur. This biggest statue of Yungan was built by Emperor Xiaowen for his father, a commemorative and blessing icon. When he ordered this colossal Buddha carved, was his heart conflicted? Torn between two forces, two powerful emotions. Just like him, his father, Emperor Xianwen, lived beneath the sheltering wings of Empress Dowager Feng. At 13, Emperor Xianwen had his first child, the future Emperor Xiaowen. Celebrating his birth, Emperor Xianwen changed the era name to Huangxing, and named his son Hong, meaning greatness. 2 years later, Talba Hong was named Crown Prince. His mother, Lady Li, was put to death by Empress Dowager Feng, leaving young Talba Hong motherless, raised instead by Empress Dowager Feng. His father, at 18, mired in conflict with Empress Feng, was forced to abdicate, leaving the throne to the 5-year-old Talba Hong. Emperor Xianwen was eventually overpowered in the court struggles, and was poisoned to death by Empress Feng at the age of 23. Such tragic familial scenes must have replayed in Talba Hong's mind, as he oversaw the carving of Yungan's tallest Buddha for his father. Yet, he made a decision to construct another cave beside his father's, in tribute to Empress Dowager Feng. The cave would have a vivid theme: filial piety, an idea he sought to magnify in Cave 6. Examining Cave 6, it is clear the Yungan designs underwent a significant evolution during this period. Inspired by India's Chitya caves, craftsmen carved a central pillar, reaching to the top of the cave. However, this Indian origin pillar was adorned with many Han-style carvings that mimicked woodwork. The cave itself boasts a novel design, appearing square, more like a structure hewn from stone than a traditional grotto. It would have pleased Empress Dowager Feng, who championed multicultural fusion. Emperor Xiaowen employed this unique Sino-Indian style to honor his nominal grandmother who had slain his parents. Crafting in caves, a splendid ode to filial piety.